Not every big TV debut goes exactly as planned. When Caitlin Clark stepped onto NBC's NBA broadcast for the first time, fans expected basketball talk, star power, and a smooth crossover moment. And for the most part, that's exactly what they got. But in the middle of the conversation, one unexpected comparison created a brief, awkward moment that instantly caught viewers' attention. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't loud, but you could see it on her face. For a few seconds, the spotlight felt different, and suddenly, this wasn't just about a debut on television anymore. Because what followed said just as much about her place in the basketball world as anything that was planned. The setting couldn't have been bigger. NBC was launching its new era of NBA coverage, and Caitlin Clark was seated at the desk as a special contributor, right in the middle of the pregame show. She was calm, comfortable, and already proving she could talk the game at a high level. Then, the conversation shifted. The hosts began discussing which NBA player her style most resembles, a common question, but one that always carries weight. That's when former NBA legend, Reggie Miller, gave his answer. He compared her to Peyton Pritchard, praising his ball handling, clutch shooting, and confidence in big moments. On paper, it sounded like a compliment. But in that instant, cameras caught a subtle change in Clark's expression. A brief smile, a glance downward, a reaction that suggested she wasn't quite expecting that comparison. She didn't interrupt. She didn't correct him. She just let the moment pass. And for viewers watching closely, that small reaction said more than any words could. To many casual viewers, the comparison might have seemed harmless. Peyton Pritchard is a respected NBA guard, known for his shooting and confidence in pressure moments. In some ways, those qualities do match parts of Clark's game. But for a player who has carried record-breaking scoring numbers, transformed attendance across the league, and become one of the most talked-about names in basketball, the comparison landed a little smaller than expected. This wasn't about disrespect. It was about perception. When a star reaches a certain level, fans start expecting comparisons to franchise players, MVP candidates, and generational talents, not role players, even very good ones. That's why the moment felt awkward, not because what was said was negative, but because it didn't quite match the scale of the impact she's had on the sport. And on live television, even a tiny mismatch between expectation and reality can feel bigger than it actually is. For a few seconds, the conversation paused in that space, somewhere between a compliment and a reminder that women's basketball stars are still fighting for the same level of recognition. But the moment didn't stay there for long. As the discussion continued, another voice at the desk offered a different perspective, one that felt much closer to how many fans already see her game. Former NBA star Carmelo Anthony stepped in and compared her style to Luka Doncic. The tone immediately changed. This wasn't just about clutch shots or confidence. It was about vision, creativity, and the ability to control a game with skill and feel rather than pure athleticism. He talked about the way she reads defenses, shoots from deep range without hesitation, and keeps defenders guessing every time she crosses half court. Suddenly, the conversation felt bigger. The earlier comparison had focused on moments. This one focused on mastery. And just like that, the broadcast moved from a slightly awkward pause to a recognition of the kind of basketball mind she brings to the court. It was a reminder that in sports, one opinion never tells the whole story. As the segment went on, the focus moved beyond comparisons and back to the bigger picture of her career. And that's when the night took on even more meaning. She shared that after an injury-filled season, she finally feels like herself again. Stronger, healthier, and eager to return to the court. It was a reminder that while she was sitting at a broadcast desk, her main story is still about basketball, recovery, and the next chapter of her playing career. She also spoke about the future of the WNBA, calling this one of the most important moments, not just for the league, but for women's sports as a whole. Expansion, sold-out arenas, rising talent. She described a league that's growing fast and stepping into a new era. That gave her NBC appearance a deeper layer. She wasn't just representing herself on national television. She was representing where the game is headed. And that's why this debut mattered, even beyond the brief awkward moment that first caught everyone's attention. In the end, her NBC debut wasn't defined by one comparison. It was defined by how she handled everything around it. A live national broadcast, a legendary analyst panel, an unexpected moment that could have felt uncomfortable. And through it all, she stayed composed, professional, and focused on the game itself. That's what stood out. Not just the analysis, not just the spotlight, but the poise. Because moments like these are bigger than a single show. They're part of a larger shift, where women's basketball stars are stepping into mainstream basketball conversations and holding their own without needing to prove they belong. One brief awkward exchange didn't slow that down. If anything, it highlighted just how much attention, expectation, and weight now follows her every move. And as basketball continues to evolve across leagues, platforms, and audiences, nights like these feel less like exceptions and more like signs of where the future of the sport is heading.